Hi everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and once again this is a bit of a later escapade. I have had many complications in this arriving, but I do have the quarterly Artful Box here in my possession. I would just like to say a big thank you to the people at Artful because they have sent me this for free so that I can show all of you the bits and pieces inside and we can take a deep dive into the supplies and see what they are all about. So the first thing that's different about this box compared to previous boxes is they've kind of done a tiny bit of rebranding, and on the front here it says underneath the Artful logo, Art School in a Box. So they're really changing the angle of this box rather than it being a sort of mystery art supplies subscription. They're now identifying with the fact that they're giving you everything you need to learn about a specific medium all in one box. And they've also put a little bit of bragging rights down at the bottom here because they've won an award, which I think is absolutely and utterly justified. It says here, premium art supplies with step-by-step tutorials and inspiration for all skill levels. And they tell you what is in the box on the front. So this month it is gouache. I'm kind of feeling a bit gouached out already, but that is okay. So let's take a little dig in here. These boxes are beefy. They're beefy. So we have a print here of a plant. It's an A4 print and it's on really good quality paper. So if you're into the artwork, that is just screaming out to be put up somewhere in your studio or your little art nook if you have one. And we also have a swatch sheet. This is something that's featured once or twice now, and this is always nice as well to have for your supplies, and you can tuck it in with wherever you're going to keep said supplies that come in the box. So here's their sort of cover, and they give you a little bit of blurb on the front there about the type of things that they do and what to expect. And the first thing that I see here is an Artful pencil. This is an F pencil, which is my favourite grade of pencil. So this is for sketching and planning out your artworks and your designs. And the Artful pencils, they're pretty reliable, they sharpen well, so a nice handy addition to have just kicking about. And as always, Artful excel themselves with their packaging. Oh, I'm going to have to move this out a little bit more. Oh. Look at this. I love these boxes, they're really sturdy and they're quite classy, I like them. So let's lift this off, and we've got a little protective layer here so things don't get squashed. Oh. So we've got 12 tubes of gouache here in varying colours, and they're kind of pretty. Oh, lavender, that's nice. Okay, so we've got a good selection here. They are numbered, but they have names as well. Some more entertaining than others. I quite like the idea of Kingfisher and Raspberry Jam. But we've also got more traditional colour names like Midnight Black, Ultramarine, etc, etc. So looking forward to that, and these tubes are big. Yeah, 25mm tubes, so you know you're not getting little dinky ones here, you're getting a full set of full-size tubes, which is really nice as well. We'll look at these in more detail in a little while. I love the fact that they package everything so securely. There's even extra cardboard here. Get this out of the way. There's even extra cardboard here, and that's just like created a little bit of a buffer to hold the box with the gouache in it in place. They're really, really well done. Like they really put a lot of thought into this. Now, they do tend to send us a pad of paper, so this is their mixed media pad. I have had quite a few of these boxes now, obviously, and there's some of the pads that I use more than others. I quite like the mixed media paper because it's a good catch-all and it's good for testing things out if you need a bigger area, because a lot of the other subscription boxes, it's A5 size, which is obviously half an A4. So this is actually really nice to have. So it's 25 sheets, 300 GSM paper, so it's nice, thick, good quality paper. And this takes a myriad of mediums. It is quite textured. It looks like watercolour paper, like cold press watercolour paper, but it's not too severe with the texture. So you can use it for things like pencil and it'll still do you a fairly good job. So we have quite a lot of paper there to keep us going for a little while. And as always, a pack of their greetings cards, handy just to have. So there's 4 cards here with little envelopes, and they're really helpful if you don't have time to nip out and get a card, or you just maybe like stockpiling them and sending them out Christmas, things like that. Really good for that. And again, nice quality paper as well. Oh, look, we're getting a fancy bag this time. Oh, I like this. I like things like this. It's got a really chunky drawstring on it as well. I'm assuming this is paintbrushes in here, and if it is, I'm going to put the rest of my Artful paintbrushes in here. Yeah, oh my goodness, this is marvellous. I absolutely love the Artful paintbrushes. I love the handles on them. I love the fibres. So we have got here a variety of brushes. We have a weeny detail brush. I don't even think you're going to be able to see the bristles on this. Come on, autofocus. Can you see it? This is so tiny. That is like a mega detail brush. It's a 5-stroke 0, so that's pretty small. That's actually showing up better if I show it against the dark part of the desk rather than my milky palm there. So yeah, we're going to use that for super fine details. That's great for highlights and working on itty bitty areas, especially. Well, the first thing that springs to mind is eyes for some reason. So that's nice. We've got a rigger brush. We've got a number 1 rigger brush, and you can see there that that is very long and narrow, and that gives you really fine lines, but you can go on forever with them. Yeah, really enjoy a rigger. Is a good rigger. It's been a while since I've had a good rigger brush. I think this is, yeah, this is a round. So this is a number 3 round. So a bit more of a standard paintbrush type effort. Good all rounder. Ah. And quite a nice size as well, because a 3 is big enough to do medium sized areas, but you can use it for detail as well, especially if you've got a nice steady hand. And we've got an angled brush as well here, and this is also a number 3 angled brush. And again, that's great. See, for doing architecture or things where there are a lot of right angles and geometric shapes, these brushes are great because you can get a really consistent line with them. So these brushes are synthetic brushes. I have used them with all sorts of mediums now. I've used them with watercolour, I've used them with paint, and they behave really well with most types of paint. So I can recommend these, and I like the fact that we're growing our collection of brushes. If you subscribe to the boxes, you know your collection's just getting bigger and bigger, and they're good quality brushes. Okay, so finally, we have our Artful magazine, and again it says Art School in a box here. Let's learn about gouache paint and other stuff. So I'm going to pop the supplies to the side for now, put them back in their nice box here. I also see these card inserts. I also love them for taping down A5 watercolour sheets, you know, to paint on. They're just a good size for that. Okay, for me, this is the main draw and the main attraction of this box is the magazine, because the magazine is always a chunky monkey, and this is packed full of loads of stuff. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit closer there so that we can see what's going on. And obviously we've got a little gouache painting in the front here. This looks very Nordic, or Scandinavian anyway. The colour of the houses and everything. Okay, so they tell you they've got their little bit on the inside, their introduction here, and the other things that they do out with, you know, what actually goes on in the box. So here we've got an overview of the supplies. The gouache paints, the recommended retail price is £50, so split between 12 tubes is just over £4 a tube, which is kind of average to be fair. Okay, they have painstakingly selected the colour palette, so this has all been selected by Artful on purpose. And they're saying there's a good chance of mixing and everything as well. There is no mention of light fastness, just to make you aware. The paint brushes, 4 paint brushes to add to your ever-growing collection. And again, the recommended retail price for those is £23.35. They're talking about the upgrade box. It says upgrade for 2 additional brushes, see page 14. So we'll look at that in just a minute. The F pencil has a very light application when used, meaning any sketches or guidelines you draw can be swiftly obscured when you begin painting. I love an F pencil, that's one of my favourites to use, F for favourite, see. A gouache is really opaque as well, so you could actually probably use, you know, like an HB, and it won't pick up too much of the graphite and it'll cover most of your lines. So the drawing pad, recommended retail price £14.50. Again, we've got now we've got this discrepancy. I've talked about this to Jamie Mitchell, who is the editor, and it says 330 GSM in the magazine, but the paper is actually 300. But there was some sort of typing errors. Heavyweight textured paper, and they talk about the blank greetings cards and envelopes at £4, so £1 a card. This very magazine, recommended retail price £7.95. Now, I think they've refined the magazine enough now that this is worth the recommended retail price. If you go into a newsagent's or you go online to get a subscription for something like this, these magazines, you know, they're up there at that kind of price. This is absolutely worth it. And also the A4 print at £14.95. So this is Oh Dear's own Alice Oliver has supplied a signed art print of a botanical still life. So Alice is going to talk about her painting further on as well, so look forward to that. And the swatch chart as well. They haven't put a price on that, I'm really glad to say, but it's just so you can test out your colours. So we have a section on the history of gouache. This makes for very interesting reading. A long time ago when I first tried gouache, I did quite a lot of research behind it. And one of my favourite things about it is it's derived from the Italian word for mud, which I already knew, but it's actually the first line in this article. Obviously I have Italian lineage, so things like that tickle me a little bit. They're describing it here as a more opaque form of watercolour. I always think about it like, I refer it to it as like, it's like kids poster paint but for adults, and you can do a lot with gouache and you can layer it up because of the opacity, but because it has that advantage of being water based, you can water it down and use it in more of a watercolour style, which is a really nice addition but is not primarily how it's designed to be used. So they're giving you basic steps here about sketching using your brushes, colour, you know, so talking about what kind of palette you're going to use, and they're explaining the steps that you should take paint background to foreground. So very similar to painting digitally, you know, you start with your bottom layer and you think in layers and work your way up. And they've mentioned a few techniques here as well, such as dry brushing and bleeds as well. So that's a really nice kind of like starter point. If you're maybe not familiar with the medium, that first little section is really, really helpful and really handy just to get you going. It's a little advert here and for their YouTube channel where you can get some stuff. Now they're talking about a mixing kit here. Oh yes, there are extra artful goodies to be had. So I'm assuming a mixing kit looks like a palette and a couple of brushes. Let's see. Ceramic mixing palette, there we go. A filbert brush and a fan brush. Ooh, fan brush, nice. So you can buy that separately. If you head to the Artful website and go into the shop, you'll be able to find this available for sale. So here we have Stephen Collins, and this man has a good beard. I do appreciate a good beard. And his illustrations are absolutely amazing. So we've got an interview with him there and it's showing off beautifully some of his work. So graphic novel type stuff here. Again, very specific art style. I love that. I love seeing artists with a very distinct style. Look at this. This is lovely. And if you want to follow him on Instagram, his handle is Stephen Collins Comics. And we have Rachel Victoria Hillis. Perfect urban places and warm green spaces. So it seems to be that she is more architecturally drawn to her paints. And look at, I mean, this is lovely. This is really nice. Lots of greens. I like lots of greens. And she's talking a bit about using gouache and how she utilises it. Oh, and I think she might be the artist involved for the cover of the magazine as well. So this is behind the scenes of the cover artwork. So it's not necessarily a tutorial, but it kind of is, because she's taking you through step by step what she's done. You know, she is giving instruction on it here, so you could follow this and paint her image that she's created for the cover of the magazine. Alice Oliver, a love of painting only rivaled by her love for dogs. Well, I'm all up for some of that. Oh, look her. Oh, yeah. It's so nice to see a medium that we have been given and so many different ways of using it and the different art styles that belong to people. Okay, so Alice is talking about selecting her colours before she actually starts her painting. Now I find things like this really helpful because sometimes I'm very good at having like a half-cocked idea but not having like all the details 100% locked down. So this is perfect for me to actually execute more in terms of the planning stage. So she's got her colour wheel there and she's starting to refine down the palette of what she wants to use, and you can see she's tried out different colours with different shades in the background just to see how they're going to stand out before she's done her painting. And Alice is taking us through how she creates a portrait as well. So again, this is like step by step telling you, you know, what you should be doing in what order. And I like the fact that the images are really big for this as well. That you can really see, especially like this close up here, you can really see what's going on, and that makes it easier for you to apply it to anything that you want to try yourself. So we've got Laura Chamberlain here, and she is a storybook illustrator. This reminds me very much, there was childhood books that I read called the Katie Morag books, and they were by, they were about a little red-haired girl, and she was Scottish, and this illustration reminds me of some of the artwork in there. So they're asking her questions here about like the things you have to take into account when thinking about children's illustrations, and this is lovely, look. So we've got Claudia here, or Claudia, depending on where you're from, and she's very much a people painter. Well, I envy that because that's something I'm absolutely terrible at. I love this nice, like, sort of bold block style as well. This really appeals to me, and gouache is perfect for this. Her artwork seems really happy artwork. Like, I get a really happy, you know, sort of like chill vibe from it. The best thing you can wear is confidence. See, that would have been funnier if someone was naked, but maybe that's just my sense of humour. This is more landscape style, so you can see that through the magazine they're taking us through different artists with different styles and also different subject matter. This is gorgeous, this is really nice. And she's really employed a lot of texture in this. Gouache can be quite flat looking because it is opaque and because it's not glossy, and this is a great way to break it up. You can really see her brush strokes and where she's dabbed at things like that. That's a really nice expressive use of gouache. I like it a lot. And again, you can see the same thing. She demonstrated that here, actually, with the sky. All the flowers. Okay, lots of flowers. Again, and you know that there's lots of talk here. You know, this is interviews and just a myriad of these artists' work, which is great. It's a real like visual feast, this magazine. It's absolutely jam-packed. Like, if you're not inspired, I guarantee that you will be by the time you flick through this magazine. Okay, here is the still life step by step. So Alice is giving you all the things that you need to create something similar to this. I quite like this. I like the white spots. They stand out beautifully. And this is relatively detailed. There's not a lot of writing in each of the steps, which isn't to say that it's not a good tutorial, but I think I would be quite interested to try something like this out. We shall see. Want more tutorials? Log into your Artful account and check out our public content on YouTube. Advert for their sketchbooks. They have a daily drawing sketchbook. They do post a prompt on their Instagram every day, so if you're ever looking for something to draw or paint, just check out their Instagram, and you can see some past work as well, because they post everyone's artwork that they can, so it's really good. Meet the team. So this is Beth. Beth is a content developer. This is essentially the creation, development and editing of imagery and video content. Well, Beth, I take my hat off to you because this magazine looks amazing. Ones to follow. So this is just a quick roundup of people that use said medium and that have an Instagram. So if you like the look of what you see, you can go on and check them out. And here is a section on createarts.org. This is the charity that we, the Cavers, have donated to before, and they have a very strong partnership with Artful, and they're actually telling a story here about someone that benefits from the money that goes to the charity. So here we have another tutorial, painting flowers, and this is like the colours in this are gorgeous. Like, a lot of this is the colour choice rather than the actual content, because this, you know, these delicate pinks and greens go beautifully together. So we've got nice step by step there as well. I see plenty of detailed pictures as well to help you along the way. We've got Holly Stapleton here, skilled at painting colour and creating an atmosphere. So this is when I was talking about gouache earlier being quite flat. This is the kind of style that I'm talking about. So there is shading there, and it's very linear and very blocked in, and that's basically accentuating the type of paint that gouache is, and that's a very popular style in which to paint in gouache. And this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. These massive big chunks of colour. So they're asking about our creative process there. Just talking a bit about that. Yeah, these are nice. And that's the thing about gouache. If you use them in this style, it can be really impactful. I mean, can you imagine this blown up to, like, you know, huge and hung on a wall somewhere? That's going to look amazing because the colours are going to go out and like, punch in the face. Love it. These are, I really like this one. A really good use of colour here as well. And the light and dark, so she's, you know, you can see the light coming from behind her, but also because she's lighting a candle as well. I really enjoy that. We've got Jessica. Oh my goodness, look at the amount of detail in this. Holy Moses, look at these. That's incredible. That's a lot of patience. She's actually put in every single little railing on this bridge here. That must have taken forever. I'll zoom in and show you that. Oh look, she's put in every single line. Oh no, thank you, that's not for me. I applaud you, Jessica, that is fantastic. So talking to her about her art journey and using gouache. One of the questions is what frustrates you most about using gouache. This is really good. This is nice. I really like her artwork. Oh, and she paints buildings, but oh, this lady is multi-talented. Excellent, excellent. Very nice indeed. And we have Andrew. There must be a theme for pink hair this month. So again, he is more into painting, I want to say landscapes, well, yeah, with like quite a loose style as well. I've always got a little bit of envy that people that can paint like this. I like to be very precise and have everything, you know, I would never manage this. And again, the colours that he's used there, they're amazing. Absolutely amazing. Good. So they're talking about the daily drawing challenge, which I've mentioned already. And here's some that have been posted to their Instagram in the past. This is lovely. To be continued. So there we go. That is the contents of our Artful quarterly box. This was actually, it came out in June. They had a bit of supply issues and then my own box went missing entirely, which is why this is so late. But that is a lot to deal with. What I want to do now is pop all this stuff to the side and get down to the nitty gritty, test the gouache out, and I really want to try that teeny tiny little brush. Righty ho ho, I've got myself a little plastic palette here and I am ready to start testing these supplies out. So just to show you what the F pencil looks like first of all. It's meant to be a sketching or drafting pencil, it's not meant for shading. And this one actually seems quite dark, the lines seem quite heavy, which is fairly interesting compared to some of the other F pencils. But you can see, yeah, look that's dark. So really, I mean, we could use this for a little bit of shadow or whatever if you wanted to. But the idea is if you draw a shape and you're going to paint over it, then this is the pencil for least resistance in terms of getting those lines erased or lightened up if you're using a kneadable eraser. But also when you paint over them, you're not going to see them at all. If you were to use a B pencil, you would find that a lot of the graphite would lift into the paint and make your paint kind of muddy looking. So that's why those are recommended for that. Right, first things first, I want to see how these squeeze out of the tubes because that's something that's, oh, they've got rubber bungs in them. Oh, you're so clever, Artful. I think that might be supposed to stay in the cap. How these squeeze out is a huge thing. It's actually a thing. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, good. We've got one for every. Oh, God. And that just exploded out there and it's still trying to escape from the tube. Okay, this happens quite a lot in transit. And I noticed that it's split slightly. You probably didn't see that because it shot out a great rate of knots. That's very common in tube paints as well. And it's basically, you just have to mix it back together. So that was the Kingfisher. I'm only going to squeeze it. I'm assuming that the temperature is not going to be helping as well. It is a balmy 29 degrees Celsius here today, which is unusually warm for Scotland. Okay, the red's behaving itself. These look super vibrant coming out the tubes and I'm enjoying the consistency of them so far. Yeah, these are nice. Look at that pink. That one was really firm, that's sand. Yeah, these caps feel as if they're just not going on properly, but I think they are. And then finally we've got Midnight Black here. Oh, that was keen to get out of there. Right, okay, so the idea here is with gouache, if we want to keep it for traditional use, how pretty does that palette look? Then we want to have a damp brush, so we want enough water to mobilise the paint, i.e. make it easy to spread, but we don't want too much water that we're going to water down the colours. So I'm going to test out this angled brush because, yes. And I think I'll just start where I started there. So we give it a little mix just to make sure we've got a good consistency and the binder and the pigment is suitably mixed together. And I'm going to go over the top of my pencil here because I want to check out the opacity. Oh, and that is absolutely splendid. Splendid, splendid. So we'll let that dry and see how that looks. But in the meantime, we'll check out the rest of these colours. So we've got the Kingfisher Blue. And the ultramarine. Oh, these are rich. Postbox red, a little bit drier. Interesting. Sunflower. And then we've got grassy green. The consistency, even when you're mixing this, like when I'm mixing it in the palette, the consistency feels really nice as well. It doesn't feel at all lumpy or as if you're having to work hard to smooth it out, which is, that's quite nice. I don't know how well these tubes will age though, because I tend to find like lumpy bumpy bits is a thing that seems to come with age once you've opened your tube. But the consistency is great in these paints, and it is quite uniform across everything that I've swatched out here already. So that lavender colour, I really like that. It's nice to have a lavender because it's not something we get very often. It's usually some sort of purple or violet. I suppose that could be construed as a very light violet, but wowee! That doesn't look nearly as pink on camera as in real life. This is like a really bright fuchsia shade, this one. It's something that's quite consistent as well across everything that Artful have given us. They seem to favour really bright, vibrant colours. They did it with their pencils, they've done it with their watercolours. So again, within the brand, at least they're staying consistent within the brand as well. Obviously with paint, it doesn't really make much difference. As long as you've got a few basic colours, then you can mix pretty much anything you want. And the fact that we've got blacks and browns and things, mixing more muted shades isn't that big a deal. Okay, this brown, I think was this sand? Yeah, this is really stiff. Like the consistency of that is really, really hard compared to some of the other ones. Nice ochre colour though. Yes, I said ochre. There's no K in ochre. And here we've got the chocolate brown. Yeah, chocolate brown. This is very much UK chocolate brown. It's like milk chocolate brown. That didn't like that much at all. Okay, let's try again. Mixing. Little bit of water on my brush. Oh, that's better. There we go. Operator error. And finally, our Midnight Black. This looks really nice. I'm curious as to how opaque and matte these are going to dry. Look at that. That is delicious. Excellent. That is really rich for a black. That's a true black. Okay. Excellent. So you can see the kind of uniformity you can get with an angled brush as well. Just to give you an idea, I'm sure you've all used an angled brush before, but we're going to test these out anyway. The great thing about them is you can get skinny lines, you can have broader strokes, but they're also really good for just getting into, you know, if you need a right angle, you know, if you need a corner in your life, because you can come one direction and then you just flip your brush over and go in the other, and you get that really nice sharp angle from these brushes without too much effort, and you're not fiddling about with them. So I'm a huge fan of an angle brush. They're quite, especially smaller ones like this, they're quite versatile, and I think they're probably a bit of an unsung hero, to be honest. But yeah, I'm quite enjoying that. Okay, so the round I'm fully expecting to be not that exciting because it's a round, you know, this is your everyday kind of brush. So they seem to, the Artful brushes seem to pick up a lot of paint really well, and you're able to do quite a lot with it. So, you know, you're getting everything you would expect from this round brush. There's nothing earth-shattering about this, but the main thing is that it works. But what I want to see now is, just while I'm here, I've loaded my brush with water and I want to try and dilute this out and see what happens, to see what we can get. So it's very clear there where I've added the water to it, like you can see that. And I kind of get, this might just be with the lavender, because this looks like quite a pigment that's got quite a lot of white in it. I'm getting like a sort of chalky dilution. That's interesting, because something you don't want with gouache is a chalky finish. Let me try with the orange. Something I can tell you straight away is I don't like these paints on this paper. The paper is too textured. I would have preference for a slightly smoother paper. In fact, I might even go like a hot press paper, which is super smooth. But let's add some more water there. Yeah, it's not happening with the orange. That is taking on the consistency and the sort of look of watercolour, whereas this not so much. So that's quite an interesting thing to note as well. And you can lift it, like you can see there when I just put some water in that there, it was coming back up. Like I can totally lift colour as well. So that's good to know too. See, because it's water-based and it has very similar properties to watercolour, the ability to lift the paint is something that should really be there. I would wager that when it's dry, it's probably not that easy to do, which again, I suppose we can test out. It won't take long for stuff to dry today, considering it's absolutely boiling here. You know, I'm surprised at being a Scottish person that I've not melted. If I go out in the sun, I might. But again, with the number 3, we can still get fairly fine lines, especially if we use the very tip. If I just water this down slightly. You know, you can see there, you can do it. I mean, that's why people like round brushes, because they're fairly versatile. Let's go for the Rigor. Again, not a brush I would normally use with gouache, to be fair. I might actually have to mix this paint with another brush, because you're not really supposed to mix paint with Rigor brushes. So this is drying on the palette fairly quickly, but again, it is very, very warm today. Although actually in the cave, the temperature isn't too bad. It's far more warmer than I would normally paint in. Okay, so I think I might be wrong here, but Rigor brushes were created originally for painting the rigging on ships. You know, to add them in, and that's where the name comes from as far as I'm aware. But you can get really long and consistent thin lines with them. And even if you press a bit harder, you're still getting a fairly thin line. But these are great for precision, especially if you're working in a straight line, and for very fine lines as well. You know, these have quite a specific purpose, but I really like them. There's something, you feel very elegant when you're using a Rigor brush. Like, I always think, I feel like such a proper painter. I don't know why. I don't know why. Don't ask, because I don't know the answer to that. And finally, by far, clearly what is going to be my favourite is this absolutely weeny detail brush. I mean, it is practically not a brush. Like, there's almost nothing there. And I'm going to go with green because green's my favourite colour. So one of the things we're going to have to watch with this is, obviously, there is not an awful lot in the way of bristles there. And we will have to watch with gouache that we don't overload the brush, because all that it does is clogs everything up. So I'm just going to like tickle the palette here. Oh, look. Oh, you can barely see it. It's so thin. I love it. I don't know how this is going to go with gouache. Oh, there's actually not enough to do. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, we need to get the water balance right here. Oh, there we go. Look at that. That's like super fine lines. And you'll be able to fill in tiny little areas with that. Look. Oh, so weeny. So weeny, and that would be really handy actually. I don't think I've ever used gouache with a brush this small before. I've done it with watercolour, because I do enjoy a weeny brush. This is super weeny though. But look at the precision you can get for filling in areas, even on really rough paper like this. Oh, right, I kind of like that. I don't think I'm going to use it for gouache after this, but the beauty of the Artful brushes is that they are multi-talented. They behave well with most things. But that's particularly special, that brush. I like it. Okay, let's go back to something a bit more sensible. I'm going to go back to this angled brush, and I want to do a bit of mixing. My paint puck's getting a workout today, I tell you that. Yeah, so let's see what happens if we mix white with something. So let's try with the green and see how happy that is. And that's playing quite nicely with that. That's not objecting to being mixed together. So we're able to get a much more delicate shade there, which is fairly nice. You know, we can get a lot of pastel shades if we use our white. If I just go back up just now while I remember, this is the white over the graphite, and that is pretty opaque. That's impressive. So as per usual, Artful have provided a substantial quality product here. And someone had mentioned under one of the videos, I can't remember which one it was obviously an Artful video, but they were saying they didn't like the fact that Artful are pushing their own products and would rather have well-known brand products. Now I think what Artful are trying to do is establish themselves as a high quality art brand, and that will take time. Obviously they have to build up their repertoire, which is what they're doing here. I think that's kind of what they're aiming for. There's some orange as well. That's pretty nice. Okay, let's try some layering now, especially with these, what I would call more offensive colours. Yes, fuchsia type colour. What are you called again? Raspberry jam, I'm looking at you. I want to see how things fare on top of each other, because that's one of the benefits of gouache is you're supposed to be able to layer stuff up and use the opacity to your advantage with that. So you can see the white's gone down great, but with a colour like that, what happens when we put yellow down on it? Well, we're going to find out. Why is there brown coming off this brush? Let's grab some yellow. Again, just giving that a wee mix there. And there you go, I've wellied that over the I've wellied that over the heaviest part, and that is not covering that in one sweep. However, if we let it dry and go over it with a second layer, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So some of the lighter colours may not cover your darker colours straight away, but there is every chance, there is potential that you may be able to do a couple of layers and totally block out what's underneath. Again, the Kingfisher layer, it's picking up a little bit of that black, and this is one of the things, again, you've got to remember about gouache is it's activated by water, so you are going to have to go carefully with your layers underneath, because if you start messing about too much, you will disturb the underneath layers because it can be reactivated. That's fairly good coverage though over the black. I'm not going to complain about that for a first sweep. Right, I'm going to let these dry and I'm going to come back and just try a second layer and see what happens. Okay, so this is now a second layer of yellow, which it's covering it up for the most part. The opacity is pretty good. And that is one swipe of yellow over the black, and that didn't go well at all. So something I think we're going to need to do when we start painting with these is we are going to have to be very careful with our layers, which is not uncommon with gouache, but I find that some brands are better than others at staying put once they're dry. This is quite an interesting box for me, just from the perspective of I've painted with gouache quite a lot and I'm quite comfortable and familiar with it as a medium. I already have a decent set of gouache as well. So these paints for me, they seem to be very good quality. I do like them. I'm not so sure about this sort of thing going on though. I'm slightly concerned about that, and it might be worse with some colours than with others. So now it is over to you, cavers. I would like to hear from you what you would like in the next video. Would you like me to complete one of the step-by-step tutorials that has come in the wonderful Artful magazine? Or do you want me to try out something else? I will leave that decision up to you. Please get back to me in the comments and tell me where you would like this adventure with gouache to go next. So the next time we revisit this box, we are actually going to paint something. And one of the things I always say is it's all very well swatching paints out and all the rest of it. The proof is always in the pudding. You need to paint something to really put an art supply through its paces. So if you want to supply me with what you would like to see, I will happily oblige as always, and we can revisit that in the next Artful video. In terms of the box then, just to round up, I feel with this particular box, if you are a new artist or if you are a beginner with gouache, I think this box is excellent. There's lots of advice and there's lots of inspiration and all the rest of it in here. As someone who has used gouache fairly frequently actually and is comfortable with the medium, I'm kind of struggling to find the value in this box for myself in terms of the actual paints. I'm absolutely in love with the brushes and I'm really glad I've got the box for the brushes. But realistically, I feel with these paints, if I was to keep a hold of these, they would literally sit in the box and still look like this in 6 months' time. I like the gouache that I use and I don't really have any inclination to deviate from that. Again, just being paint, it's easy to mix your own colours. And if you are a bit further on than a beginner, you know, you have that ability and the confidence to mix colours. So I really feel that these deserve a good home. I am delighted though to be building up my Artful paintbrush collection. That is it for today, guys. I would love to know your thoughts on this box. Again, this video is really late. You'll have seen other Artful unboxings by now. I would still like to know what you think of the box and what you think of them reframing it as an art lesson in a box. And how you feel about the supplies in particular itself. The standout moment for me is definitely this weeny detail brush. That I'm in love with this brush. Okay, all opinions and comments for what you want me to paint welcome down below the video. I just want to thank you all very much for watching. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me. I always appreciate it. I shall see you back in the cave on Thursday for another video. So have a great day, everyone, and bye-bye for now.